Most truckers are grinding away every day just to keep up, but very few are actually getting ahead. Tonight, we're breaking down the systems and mindset that can turn your trucking into a tool for long-term financial freedom. So we're gonna do these things like we always do, and we're gonna come back into that stuff, and we'll be right back, y'all.
Paying too much for trucking insurance? What if you could save more by making one simple phone call and keep more profit? You could very well do just that with one simple call to Seabright Agency, 800-366-6466. Call now.
Now here's a question that all owner-operators and small fleet owners should consider. What happens when you access the unrivaled advantages that are available through the ES Advantage program? We asked Jeff and Charley from Contractors Corner to share their thoughts on how they've been able to utilize the discounts and services that are a part of the ES Advantage.
So we started looking for a way to save money on fuel. And we were turned on to the ES Advantage program for fuel first. So we got a hold of Jeff Reese, and he ran us through that program. And man, we were starting to save. And then we started talking to them. Well, we saw their website, and we said, Jeff, what's this thing about insurance and accounting and
Right.
You lease trucks? What?
Right, and that's the thing is we only knew it as a fuel card, and when we started digging deeper, I mean, we ended up getting hooked up with an insurance provider, Seabright Agency, and they created an entire insurance program just for us and our people. And from that, we've learned that now there's even more potential. There's a greater opportunity, and it's completely opened up our eyes and broadened our vision into what it is we're trying to do, which is help people do better. Wrapped with the ES community, just makes that process so much easier.
Now, if you're an owner-operator or small fleet owner and you would like to learn more about how you can drive savings to the bottom line of your business, the ES Advantage program has the discounts and services that deliver the kind of unrivaled advantages that are designed to help you improve your overall operation. Get connected with the ES Advantage today.
You're dirty.
Am I?
Hey, man.
What's up?
Oh, long night last night, dude. Oh my gosh. We didn't get to the house till like 4:30, 5 o'clock this morning. And then, of course, the normal wind down.
You should have just stayed up all day.
I thought about it. I'd
And
be
then
even
you're
more
gonna
useless than I am right now.
Okay.
It was a long day yesterday, dude. Like for real. Like I couldn't get good naps and nothing. And man, we even stopped for 2 hours on the way back.
Yeah.
And I mean, I got like maybe an hour nap, and that was cool. But I don't know, man. Just wasn't awesome. Hey, everybody.
So who was first to that?
Huh?
Who was first to that?
Sean was, then Tim. They were like super close. And then Chris Hamilton came in a bit later. Sorry, chat. I was catching up. Man. But whatever. Hey, everybody. Let's do that. Glad to see you. Man. Jeff, I don't know, man. This could be a complicated show today just because my brain is slow. So it's going to be fun. James, I'm going to correct what you were saying, but it won't be till the second half of the show. You know what? I can just do it right now. Look, what they said was not 70% of the payout. They're going to pay you 70%. This is for Swift guys, by the way. I apologize. Load board stuff. They're going to pay like 70% of the market rate because they don't want to divulge their rate cons, and they don't want to divulge their rates. So you're going to get a market average rate and a percentage of that.
lane. For that lane.
Did I say that right?
Yeah. I mean, unless they've drastically changed what they're talking about, and all of a sudden they want to compete with Landstar.
Right.
Which, I mean, they could do that if they were just willing to do an all-in rate, but they're not. And then, I mean, we could get more into it in the second half of the show. That's when we do our ranting. So,
right. I mean, there's all kinds of stuff, and I don't know. Maybe that's why some people aren't speaking to me right now because, you know, I don't know. Whatever. Maybe it's in my head. Who knows?
we just disagree with certain people right now, and I don't think anybody's butthurt though, Charlie. I think they're keeping things tight to the vest, and then we'll get the announcement when we get the announcement on what the whole thing is. I would like to see some people in our Core Swift group though in contact with the division say, hey, you know, I'd really like to be part of that. I'd really like to be part of that test.
Right.
I'd like to see some of our people in there so that we can start analyzing the numbers with you.
Right.
So that people, because again, Swift stuff, sorry guys, but you're going to have a choice between the mileage contract and this new market rate percentage contract. It would be really great if we could get some numbers,
right,
so that we can advise people on what might be better for them. Because let's be real, Charlie, it's going to be different for a guy living in Utah like me,
right,
than a guy living in Texas, than a guy living in Pennsylvania, than a guy living in Florida. If we could get some data and see what the lanes are paying,
right,
you know, we might be able to come up with some pretty good.
And
if you live in,
where are they pulling the data from?
Right.
Anyhow, let's do this. Anyhow, we're gonna jump into the topic because we should just get that out of the way. So from paycheck to paycheck, cannot talk. Oh my God, lips, mouth failing. Hey Patrick, my brother Patrick's in the room. To true profit building, right? Tonight we're going to be talking about taking control of your money, your future, your business, and why truckers are struggling with money, even while grossing big numbers for some of us. Real financial freedom doesn't mean working harder. It means working smarter with what you earn. And that's where a lot of us kind of die on the sword, I guess, you know? Why truckers with high gross still feel broke.
Now, Charlie's note says that Jeff is supposed to stare stats.
Yeah, but you didn't take over. I left a long pause. You didn't take it. Go.
Did we get stats, Charlie? Oh man. So one of the things, a lot of people, we talk to people all over the country, Charlie.
Yeah.
And you do have these high grossing guys that boy, they'll tell you right. They'll tell you right now they make $300,000 a year. Bam. How you like that, Swifty?
Right.
Well, okay. Well, the average Swift driver makes about $175,000 to $200,000 a year. Okay. You could do that really easy solo, by the way, guys. If you just hit the road, keep that left door closed, as my mentor used to tell me. But that's not what matters. I don't care what your truck brings in. What I care about is what you keep.
Right.
You got to get out of that mentality of, well, my truck grosses $200,000. I don't care what your truck grosses. What are you putting in the bank? What are you able to spend? You know, I just had a conversation today with Tony Dennis, and he was talking about two people he knows. They both do really well, Charlie.
Yeah.
One grosses about $225,000, $250,000 a year, haul in petroleum products. The other one has this crazy operation where sometimes he's on a step deck, sometimes he's on a regular skateboard, and sometimes he's on a belly dump. It just depends on what he's hauling that day.
Right.
And he grosses around $350,000 a year. Guess which one has more disposable income though?
Yeah. Huh.
The guy making $225,000, $250,000. Why is that? Comes down to operating expenses, right?
Yeah, it's all those other things.
You know, daily fast food spending. I love that one.
Right.
That one's not only bad for my bank account, that'll actually kill me.
Yeah, yeah.
So don't be fooled by these people that say they make these high gross numbers. You make high gross numbers too. Look at your tax returns, guys. Even on a bad year, you're going to gross $100,000 in a year. That's what's coming to the truck. But you got to pay for fuel. You got to pay your truck payment. You got to pay this. You got to pay that.
Right.
Out of that $100,000. So then we get down to the bottom line. And that's why a lot of these guys, they'll boast about making money, that much money, but they feel broke because a lot of times they are broke. So Charley loves talking about this. Charley, net profit versus gross revenue.
Oh man, look, people are constantly, like Jeff was saying, I do this, I do that. I'm like, yeah, but what are you keeping, bro? I mean, seriously, what are you keeping? And they're usually, quite a few of these folks are embarrassed to share that number. I don't know why. You know, they're real proud of that gross, but they won't talk about that net, you know?
Yeah.
And this is, you know, like our notes say, Jeff, this is the wake up call, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know, if you're grossing 250 and you're only keeping 30, 40,
Ouch.
something's wrong. You need to work on something here. Yeah, Sean, you ain't lying. But I just lost my train, Jeff. It just hit a flatbed on the.
I'm trying to figure out how to turn off my phone here real quick.
That's awesome.
Listen at me. You know, we got that update recently, right?
I have not.
Users. It's a pain.
Yep. Rosie says her battery's dying more quickly.
That's not happening to me, but the UI changed. Anyway, so you're talking net profits versus gross revenue.
Yeah. I've kind of lost my brain there. But, you know, again, it's not the gross that matters, you know? I mean, what are you doing? You know, the leak map here, our little leak map there. Let's go to the graphic, right? Overusing fuel in your idle time, right? These are just chipping away at that net. Emergency repairs instead of maintenance planning. So we've got a whole show coming up in a couple weeks on maintenance, and we'll have a guest on for that. Daily fast food spending, man. There's a lot of guys, you know, that I hear and see and talk to, and all they do is eat fast food or hit the, you know, truck stop restaurant, which is hitting you for $25-30 a meal for one person. You know, Rosie and I eat ribeyes on a regular basis, you know, and we can buy 2 ribeyes at Target, and they're kind of high priced. Let's just be real about it. But we can buy 2 nice ribeyes and veggies and spend between $30 and $40 for our entire meal, and we get 2 steaks out of that. So we, you know, with all the veggies and everything, we actually only cook 1 steak and half the veggies each day. So we buy for 2 days of eating. Right. At $40. And we're eating whole, fresh, real food. Right? It's crazy, man. The markup in the restaurants, especially at the truck stops that we're, you know, captive to, is insane. Poor load planning. Your routing, things like that, you know, hitting these routes that, I don't know, man, they just aren't profitable sometimes because, you know, you're like, oh, I think that's going to be a great one, but, you know, that's a mountainous, crazy load, right? Route. And, you know, maybe there was a flatter route. Maybe it's a little bit longer, but if you're increasing your fuel mileage over the course of that route from, you know, 7.5 to 8.5 miles per gallon on your fuel, which is the better? You got to do the math, got to figure it out.
Well, you got to do the math if the route is longer,
right?
And it gets a little. I think you don't want to get mired in the details so much on that one, Charlie.
Right.
it's got to be it's got to make a difference. And a lot of times it ends up being a wash, is
Right.
what it ends up being. So then, but let's talk about, besides the financial part of what we're talking about, the stress of it.
Right.
There's routes that I take simply because it's less stressful for me.
Yep. Rosie and I regularly take a longer route to a couple of our regular stores because it's an easier travel path. It would actually be less miles for us to run up through Atlanta and take back roads over into Alabama for a couple of our stores.
Yeah.
But the traffic that we could hit, just the garbage back roads that go from Atlanta to our spots over there, I don't like them. I just don't like them. So we have a route that we prefer. And since, Rosie drives nights and she typically drives us up, she picks that route. She likes it. She's used to it. And that's what we do. It's convenient. It's a little bit longer and it might take a little extra more time. But I actually, like Jeff was saying, I think it comes out to be a wash as far as the cost. But the peace of mind is awesome. She just prefers that route.
Mm-hmm.
High interest debt payments.
Yeah.
Right? That's a big one for a lot of people. Some of these credit cards, things like that, short-term loans. Yeah, do whatever you can to pay those things down and get rid of them as fast as you can. And downtime from having no backup plan, right? We're going to dip deeper into this kind of stuff here shortly. But it's just, I don't know, man. There's so much. And we could probably do hours on just this first segment. It's just, and we actually recently did a show about this topic, within the last month or two, but kind of felt like, oh yeah, well, why not do it again? Because there's a lot of people out here hurting, right? Whether it's freight, whether it's managing their stuff, their personal and financial stuff. There's just so many things that you just gotta get into. It's uncomfortable. It's not fun. We get it. But, you're going to need to get into this stuff. So what's one expense for all of you guys, all tens and tens and tens of you watching? What's one expense you didn't realize was hurting your profit until it was too late? I can tell you, for me early on, it was absolutely fuel.
Yeah. Both of us, you and I both.
Yeah. And for quite some time.
The 10 or so people that are on right now have been with us long enough they know that story probably by heart by now.
Right.
We really screwed up our fuel for a number of years. Thank goodness we had a good friend that hit us upside the head. I don't mind saying that. Do you, Charlie?
Nope.
So, and that's what it takes sometimes. It's literally getting hit upside the head with some numbers.
Right. Yeah, Ida, fuel and eating out all the time. Tim, definitely fuel. Hi, Ida. Lisa's dropping jokes. We'll try and come back to those.
Yeah, I mean, but here's the thing.
Gave a great example here. Check this out. Dang it, scrolled off. Example, I run reefer, average weight is 42,000, 2,700 miles going from Vernon, California to Maryland. I have to fill it 3 times if I go across 40 and it's less miles. But if I take 10 to 20 and go up 81, where'd it go? He only fills it 2.5 times. Longer route, but better fuel mileage. So now the question becomes, what is the actual cost for each route? Right? I mean, there's a little more math you need to do. I mean, on the face, it actually sounds like that's the better route. If it's not getting you any more loads to get there faster. Yeah. I mean, there's just so many different things. I don't know.
So I would want to know a couple things on this one, TK. How many miles is the difference?
Right.
You'd have to do the fuel mileage, your average fuel mileage on your truck. Figure out how many gallons you burn on each of those routes. Now, the other thing you're going to find, though, is below the 40, fuel does tend to be a little less expensive, too.
Right.
So you got to factor all of that in. You're almost there, man. Man, I'm so proud. I'm so proud of you,
yeah,
right now.
you're making great steps, brother.
Seriously.
I love that you're looking at this, though.
The next step, though, is figure exactly how many gallons are burned on each of those routes. And you don't have to drive them either. Just do the math. I'm going to say don't drive them. Do what you do, but do the math and figure out how many gallons you burn on each route. And then what's the fuel prices on those routes? Because I know the 10 is going to be a little cheaper than the 40, with the exception of Oklahoma City.
Right.
You fair, Charlie?
Yeah. He says 121 miles longer. So factor in the time. That's,
That's
for
2
you,
hours.
that's like an hour. For, normal people, it's like, 2. My bad.
I was going to say 20 minutes.
Right.
Oh, the points thing. Who's bringing up the points thing? Someone brought up points.
Mike.
Oh, Mike. So points don't equate what you spend on fuel, dude. Again, do the math.
Well, that's what he was saying. He was saying that, putting the points ahead of it was.
Yeah, that one's Charlie and I, when we first really started looking at the fuel thing, and we started using, the mud flap and the other types of apps to get fuel to get away from the con data card. We figured it out. I was personally, Charlie, saving enough money fueling the new way that we were starting to fuel, to where I could pay for a shower for the $15 at the time it was at a TA,
Right,
and still come out like $20 ahead on that 24 hours.
So there was a time, when like the pilot was giving us those 10 points, right? So we're getting 10 cents for every gallon. Excuse me. There were actually some times when I did factor that into my fuel pricing, because if the prices were close or the same price, and I could get those 10 points at the pilot and a shower and pay the same amount I would pay at, S&S across the road, I'm probably going to the pilot, because that's snack time.
You also get free dinner.
Yeah. Snacks or whatever, I don't know, man. There's lots of things you can use those points on. I used to use them for all kinds of crazy. Heck, I used to buy. That's the only way I used to buy a GPS, was I'd wait till there was enough points and do it that way,
Yeah.
Now that could take me forever, because I hardly ever use any of those stops. I use it for reefer fuel every now and then, like the Loves I'll hit on a semi-regular basis, because I need reefer before I actually need real fuel, things like that. But that's about it, honestly. I mean, just doing the good shopping for fuel prices, things like that. And I have a couple places that I may actually pay a couple pennies more, but it's a convenience thing for a route, things like that. So I do factor that in as well. Well, yeah, Ida, you're right. How many times do you have to do that to get one snack, right?
So fueling the way we fuel, low, Ida, a lot of times we're fueling at least 100 gallons.
Right.
So that's $10 at the pilot when they were bribing us. That's pizza and a Coke.
Yeah, for real.
That's literally dinner. That's 2 slices of pizza and that extra big
diabetes cup.
The diabetes cup that no one should be drinking, but we all do.
Yeah, it's funny. So why normal budgeting advice doesn't work for drivers? This is kind of a neat thing here. Trucking friendly budgeting that works. That's what we're going to try and dip into here. There's a 3-tier system: operating budget, home budget, and growth budget. I almost put up 4. Operating budget, home budget, growth budget. And those are 3 different things you should be working on. They are completely separate, right? Your operating budget. Look, if we're looking at this from a business standpoint, your operating budget should be number 1, right? There's a tough battle here in your head: operating budget versus home budget. I think if you get your operating budget to an optimal point, it should cover your home budget. If your home budget is not covered, you might want to rethink your home budget. Do you need 27 streaming services? Do you need $100,000 pickup truck and all that entails? There are tools and systems that you can actually use out here. Stop, he said. Sean, I love you, man. It's a good example, and I'm not actually picking on you for that one. I know several people that are gone that route, bro. But it's real. I mean, it's real. Everybody knows it's real. We want these things. They're vanity items. For us, they truly are vanity items. Let's just be real about that. I drive my pickup truck maybe 1 day a week, and that's to go pick up cigars and come back to the house. Half hour of driving a week. Everybody else in the house drives my truck far more than I do. So I've got a crappy base model F-150 that I picked up used at a really good price. I mean, plastic seats, plastic floor mats. I only have an AM/FM radio, no Bluetooth in the thing, so I always have to take my headset. I mean, all these basic functions. It does have power windows and locks, so that's kind of hot. And I do have a big truck air horn in it because I'm me, and I like to see people startled from time to time that deserve it. But trying to keep some of those things, but I do overspend other places. I'm an electronics gadget guy. I love this stuff. But when it came down to it, if I'm going to lose the business, I definitely won't keep any of the things at the house. So if I have to cut a couple things at the house to keep the business going, to keep it all going, that's the smart move. That's the adult move. And then if you can get both of those in line, both of those running as smooth as you can, and you should always be trying to refine that and cutting, whatever you can and finding a way. Look, you guys have heard me in the past say, I'm trying to figure out a way to make a quarter penny extra, because enough of those quarter pennies add up to a full penny, and those pennies turn to dimes, dimes turn to dollars. Right? So if I can find those little ways to make small incremental changes, they will turn into much bigger and bigger things. You may actually come to a point where you are just, streamlined and doing it all right. What's your move then? Well, you need to be working on your growth. What can you do to grow your wealth? What can you do to grow your business? There's a bunch we can get in here. Let me throw up my little graphic. My bad. So operating budget, fuel, maintenance, insurance, and load expenses, right? Home budget, mortgage, rent, family bills, personal needs. Growth budget, emergency fund, equipment upgrades, and investments. These are all important things. The way you put your mind to them is you just need to make that mindset shift if you haven't already. Some of you, have made half a shift, and that's great. Look, that's progress. Some of you are deep in the shift, and you're great. You're doing wonderful things, and, but we can always do better, I think. And if you're not trying to do better, I think you're hurting yourself and you're kind of shorting yourself. What do you got, Jeff? My bad. I'm like flowing, and I'm going to end up going in circles if I don't stop.
Oh, that could be fun.
Chris, Adulting makes my head hurt. Yes, sir. I'm with you. We've been doing a lot of these really kind of important topics, so I hope you guys have been digging them.
Yeah, I mean, it's, we have noticed a trend though, Charlie, that when we turn back into the two jack wagons on YouTube after the break, our viewership goes up, and that's okay. But the reason we do this new kind of, well, it's not really even new anymore. We've been doing it for a couple months.
Right.
A formatted first half. It's stuff we've learned over the years, right?
Mm-hmm.
That have helped us, and we want to get that out there. So what's this look like practically, Charlie? You're talking about budgets. Most budgeting advice doesn't even work for drivers. Why? Because we don't have a regular income, right?
Right.
You have 1 week where you made your net profits was $2,600.
Right.
And then the next week you owe Swift money. I mean, that's the two extremes, right? And it does happen from week to week, depending on what the freight volumes are looking like.
Great example. I have 2 weeks where I sat here in my pajamas, told you guys all about it.
Mm-hmm.
This week I went back to work, but I started at quite a deficit.
Yeah.
Luckily, I stayed busy enough that I will be in a profit. Not a great profit, but I actually have enough revenue so that my net after my expenses is in the plus. We ran our asses off. We absolutely did. We drove hard. We didn't screw around, and we did everything we had to do. Right. Ida, not to promote a company, but I did get the free version of Rocket Money, which has helped me so much. I can see all in one place every penny I spend and where it goes. That is a fantastic thing to do.
Mm-hmm.
Because then you look, and I need to do this. I openly admit this. I need to go through because I have so many little things on auto payment, right? And I've lost track of what I'm subscribed to. And some of these things, I mean, I don't even use. I pay for Vet TV, but I rarely watch it, but that's what I'm not going to change. Right. I love the stuff that they do. He said do. But I feel like I'm supporting vets, and I like that one.
Yeah.
But there's a couple others out there that I could probably drop that I just don't use.
So yeah, but getting back to the budgeting though, right? It is a little different for professional drivers because you don't have a set weekly pay. Right. As an owner operator though, as the owner of your company, here's a little tip that I'm going to recommend. Take the hit to build up your business account. Seriously, take the hit. Take a month, maybe a month and a half. And I'm going to say something that's going to piss some financial guys off. Right. Colton's going to come to my house and beat me up for this one, I'm sure. Get behind on your mortgage 1 month, just by a couple of weeks. Build up that business account. Get it to where you've got 3 months. That's right. I said 3 months of operating expenses in that account, including, Charlie, your payroll. Okay? Because what you want to do, the reason for having that 3 months is it's not rocket science. Now I'm promoting them, right? It's not anything other than this. You want to get to the point where you're paying yourself the same thing every week, whether it's $1,000 a week, $1,200 a week. And I'm going to recommend you get, if you're married, especially get with your spouse and figure out what that is. What are you comfortable with, right, with a weekly salary? And that's what you're going to pay yourselves, that weekly salary. Now I'm going to say it's going to take you about a year to accomplish this. So don't think you're going to do it next week.
Right.
Okay. Just little by little, that business checking account that you have, you need to build it up to where 1 month of all of your expenses including payroll, is in there. Once you get to that point, folks, you're going to be able to pay yourself a salary.
Right.
You know what $1,000 a week is $52,000 a year, right? What do you do with the rest of the money, Charlie?
I believe most people can live on that.
I can. It's lean for sure. Okay.
Right.
$52,000 a year is lean. But here's the thing. And if you have a good accountant like Trucker CFO, they will go over this with you. If you're making more than $75,000 a year, you should only be paying yourself $52,000 a year on a W-2. And the rest you should be taking as owner draws from your S corporation, right? If you're not making more than $75,000 a year, we need to work on that. But your salary, what you pay yourself, okay? And for those of you guys that are in our school community over the next year, especially, because I've got some stuff planned for you, buddy.
Sure.
I'm starting my Hero on a Mission here on Saturday. That's the training that's going to get you on board with everything else that I'm going to be doing for the next year for that group. We're going to go over how to set up five different accounts and cash flow your money through those 5 accounts.
Right.
Makes it real easy. Once you get your business account to that 3-month roll, what do you do with that extra money, Charlie? You roll it into your investment account.
Right.
You don't spend it. You don't go buy a Raptor, right? You put it in your investment account. You pay your taxes, all of that stuff. So the $1,000 before taxes, drug runner. Now, if you take my courses this year, which I know that you're already signed up for the community, make sure you show up for them. For those of you that have been in the community for a while, this next couple of weeks is going to be kind of a rehash. But I promise you, we're going to get to the point to where we're going to make it make sense for a truck driver's business. But we got to start back at the beginning to do that. And one of the things we're going to do is we're going to talk seriously about your business plan.
Right.
In about 6 weeks is where we're going with this course that I'm doing now. Trust me, it makes sense. Like anything that's worth it, though, it takes time. And if you do the stuff that Charlie and I are talking about right now, it's going to take you a good year of serious focus. Like I said, you're going to feel like your mortgage is in jeopardy because, oh my goodness, I'm only paying myself this much. But get used to it, because here's what's going to happen as you roll more and more money into that investment account. Well, before you know it, you got a paid for truck, bro. Not only do you have a paid for truck, but you have enough money to buy a brand new engine for that paid for truck when the time comes.
Right.
So let's say you get it up to 1.8 million miles, which is what trucks are getting to these days, by the way, just so you all know. At that point, it's just time to replace the motor because there's nothing that can be done with it.
Right.
It's just done. According to Bruce Mallison and Pittsburgh Power, they're not even bothering to do in-frames on these things anymore. They just last to be about 1.8, 1.5 to 1.8, and then you replace the engine. By the way, that's about a decade worth of work that you get out of a truck.
Right.
Those of you guys that say, "I will never pay a truck off." Okay, you keep that opinion, and I will watch the people that make money make money.
Right.
So that's where we want y'all to be.
So Brandon Bearden said, break your mortgage down into weekly payments and pay it this way for a year. You'll be surprised on what that does.
You have to do that a certain way, though.
Right.
I would not physically pay it every single week. I would just save the money every single week. And at the end of the month, pay what's in that account. Well,
being that I don't have a mortgage and haven't had a mortgage for a very long time, I'm going to ask deeper questions here. Because I think my brain is working here. If I was to pay my mortgage on a weekly basis, wouldn't more of that apply to the principal?
Only if you tell them to put it towards the principal.
Gotcha. Gotcha.
And most mortgages, if you read your mortgage contract, they only let you do that once a month.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. I know that's what mine says.
Okay.
I go reading contracts again. I know it's crazy.
Contracts.
You end up making one extra payment a year if you do that.
Right.
Which can lower the term on a 30-year mortgage to 18 years.
Okay.
Not quite in half. But think about it, Charlie. That's how much you're paying in interest.
Right. I know, it's crazy.
It is crazy.
So-
I was in my last house for 15 years, and I enjoyed every month looking at how much went towards principal. I
Right.
kind of got off on it, Charlie.
Oh, yeah.
You know? Because when you first start out a mortgage, it's like $2. It goes towards principal.
Right. You start seeing them big numbers hitting principal, you're like, all right.
Yeah, I'm on 3 figures now. Yeah.
So, question for you guys. Do you run a personal and business budget, or does it all mix together? I'm going to go out on a limb and say that for most people, it all mixes together, and you really got to get that separation going. You know, but what do you guys see? What are you doing? Yeah. Where are we at? Sorry.
Saving for emergencies, downtime growth.
Yeah, this one's you. Go.
Why is that one me? Because I failed at it?
Because it says so.
Oh, okay.
I don't
Well,
know.
everybody knows my story, you know.
Right.
I had this locked in. I had the money saved. I had the paid for truck. And then I made a choice. I made the choice to move my family from one state to another, which costs more money than I thought it would, by the way, just so you know that. But it really put me in a pickle.
Right.
But here's what I learned from having been there and had all of this squared away. Talk about a stress-free life, Charlie. No payments. I didn't know anybody needed money for like 3 years.
Right.
It was just like, I think I'm going to go to work this week. What do you think, dear? Oh, you probably oughta. Okay. That's the way my life was for 3 years, bro.
Right.
Because I had all of it done. I had the pay yourself first strategy going, just like I told you, you know. I was paying myself a percentage of what I made. I wasn't doing a salary, which is what I would say now, because I've learned a few things since then. I was paying myself 80% of my profits is what I was paying myself. And Charlie and I, we were in a bit of a stiff competition because we both had paid for trucks at the time. He was making more per mile on the bottom line.
Yeah.
And it was fun. You know, find yourself someone to do that with, by the way.
For real.
Because it will make a difference in your bottom line, whether you have a paid for truck or not. Just make sure that the person you're in competition with is in a similar boat that you're in, whether they have a payment or not. If you have a payment, find someone that's got a payment. If you have a paid for truck, find someone that's got a paid for truck. And start comparing numbers every week. That little friendly competition, dude, it did wonders for Charlie and I.
Oh, yeah.
Seriously. So you got your pay yourself first, which we talked about. I'm gonna say go for the salary.
Right.
You know, go for the $1,000 a week. If you need more than that, I'm gonna say let's look at your household finances.
Right.
Now, if you're like me, where you've got a mortgage that is a little on the high side, I've got a $2,000 a month mortgage. And so I need a little bit more than $1,000 a week because I like my mortgage to be no more than a third of my take-home pay.
Right.
That's the way I like to have things. So I do need a little bit more than $1,000 a week. It's going to be individual, but have something, and then work towards that cash flow that I talked about in the previous section. Saving buckets. So this is something that I don't think people think about a whole lot, Charlie.
Right.
We all have a maintenance account for our trucks, right? Or at least you should.
I hope.
Whether it's through your carrier or it's a separate account, I'm going to say you should probably have both. And there's a reason for that. So when I was at Swift, I was doing 10 cents a mile into my maintenance account at Swift, and 10 cents a mile into my maintenance account, which was my my business savings account. There's a reason for that, Charlotte. Because I would go stroke a check for a service at Speedco or wherever.
Right.
But if I needed the buying power of Swift for a major repair, I had that money sitting in the Swift maintenance account to cover it. And we just had kind of a bit of a debate on this on our private group here. I don't know if you saw it.
Yeah.
A couple days ago. And I'm not sure the individual I was debating really understood what I was talking about. So I want to make it clear. Your maintenance account that is held in reserve by your carrier, whether it's Swift or whoever, most carriers have a maintenance program that you can save money into, right? Well, you don't want to necessarily use the money that's in there. And I'm going to say you want to get it up to around 10 grand.
Right.
Because here's what happens. You break down on the side of the road and you need a tow. Well, okay, regardless of what, I'm going to pick on Swift for a second. Because at Swift, if you call their on-road department, they're going to charge you 10% of the bill as a convenience fee. Understandably, people get upset about that. However, I guarantee you that you cannot get a tow for the rate that Swift has contracted with all these tow companies.
Right.
Not even freaking close. Okay. So if you got your 10 grand in the Swift maintenance account, they're just going to take it right out of there. No problem. I'm not going to fall in the rears. And you get the discount that Swift gets for being a multi-billion-dollar corporation with towing contracts out there.
Right.
Now, you want your personal one to also be around 10 grand. You notice that this is a total, Charlie, now of $20,000, which happens to be how much a new one box or transmission might cost you.
Right.
Okay. And that's the important thing is look at what the components on your truck cost. What would it cost to replace the engine? What would it cost to replace the transmission? And that's what somebody's got a photo on in the background here.
That's funny.
Oh, Donna just got home and she's got our show on and it's like 30 seconds behind it.
Right.
Ears.
I know. I hate when I do that.
Oh, wives.
Love them.
So you want your savings buckets. Okay. Maintenance, taxes. Now, if you're trucking's a different thing, so many doggone deductions. And they don't always show up until the end of the year.
Right.
So to be safe, what a Colton is going to tell you is just save 25% of your net profits into an account. And then if you don't use it for your quarterlies, then you don't use it. Bonus time, right?
Investing something.
And then your opportunity savings. Charlie and I, man, one of these things has got to hit, Charlie. One of these opportunities we find about is actually going to go through.
Right. Right.
But we're always looking, as an entrepreneur, you should always be looking for new opportunities. What money are you going to use for that opportunity? If you don't have something set aside, and that's where in my 5 accounts thing that I do, Charlie,
right,
that investment account comes in. And I'm going to caution everybody because I see this all the time. Oh, I'm going to go do this. I'm going to go do that. Okay, well, money. You realize that most successful entrepreneurs, Charlie, don't get rich for at least a decade after they start their business. For some reason, we truckers think it's going to be next week. It's weird. We are in the only business, Charlie, that you make a profit the very first week that you're in business. I don't know of another business that's like that. And one of the only industries where people think I'm going to get rich this year.
Yeah.
You got to do the hard work. You got to have these plans, these things in place where you're saving for your maintenance, you're saving for your taxes, and then you can save for your opportunities, whether it's investments, retirement, whatever. Automating your savings, even on variable income, you can do. You know, I used to actually do this, Charlie. I used to have, when I was a company driver, I had Swift deposit my money into 3 different accounts. My house checking, which is what the wife uses to pay the bills with. My road checking, which we found out real quick, by the way, that being married and having one checking account with one of us being away from home, we worked together all the time. Boy, that was a recipe for disaster. Because we weren't talking to each other about what was spent.
Right.
So two different checking accounts, the house and mine for the road, and then a savings account.
Yeah.
I automated it. And that worked out really well for us.
Right.
What do you got for Mike Anderson here?
He said, I just spent over $7,000 on all 10 tires, service, and DOT. Still have $3,000 in the maintenance account. See? And that's going to bring me to our segment question, right? If your truck blew a turbo today, would you be ready for it? I can tell you right now, even with those 2 weeks off, I am. My maintenance account is solid right now. I'm not to my $10,000 mark, but I'm getting pretty dang close. I'm working real hard at it. And, you know, most of you guys know that I used to call that my Vegas account.
Yeah.
But,
certain
you know,
people still do.
Yeah. You know, I'm working hard to get towards that $10,000 mark because my truck is now approaching, you know, my service. I have a service set up for the 14th in Ocala. And that's 400,000 miles on the truck, right? Let's be real. We start seeing more things happening for 500,000-600,000 miles. So I'm trying to get ahead of that curve so that I'm not blindsided. I'm not set backwards when I take 2 weeks off unexpectedly, like I just had to, just to fix my brain. You know, we're lean right now on our personal accounts, super lean. But the business is taken care of, and because of working this week, we're not dipping into the little bit that we, you know, made this week to have to float everything else from earlier in the month where I took that time off that, you know, I know I absolutely needed it, but wasn't expected. You know, and I just bought drive tires last week, and I have this big service because it's 400,000 miles, so it's like, God, I think this service is up around 1,500 or $2,000 overall total. I can't remember off the top of my head. I know it's over $1,000 because, you know, I got power steering fluid and a bunch of other things. I'm not even sure what else at 400. I got to dip back into the contract to find out for sure. But, you know, Michael Fowler, excuse me, with that much in a maintenance account, the company collects the interest. They do.
Yeah, you know what though, Michael? I don't care. This is not about a maintenance account. Is not about getting rich. Maintenance account is about taking care of that truck, and that's it. And the reason for keeping $10,000 into the Swift maintenance account, sure, they can have the interest. I don't care. I really do not care. Because when that tow bill comes,
right,
for $8,000, right? Because you need a tow, you're calling Swift, right, Charlie? You're not calling AAA going yourself. You're calling Swift. So it's coming out of that maintenance account, or it's coming out of your next settlement, one of the two. Now, if it's coming out of your settlement and it's $8,000-$10,000 for that tow, you're going to owe Swift money for a couple of weeks,
especially as a solo.
So my argument, and you're not going to change my mind on this one, I can guarantee it. That maintenance account is for security, not for both building. It's for security. That's what that's for.
And that buying power.
And that's why, you know, they'll let you have up to what, 20, 25,000 grand in there.
I don't know that they have a limit,
but I would not keep any more than that $10,000. I would bill it to 10 grand and then stop contributing it to it, or put it down to the minimum, whatever you have to do to keep it open, and then double down on your own maintenance saving. What would it be? 10 grand.
But the interest rate on a regular savings account is so minimal. I don't know, man.
It's $200 a year.
You know,
$200 a year is what you would get off of a regular interest rate on a savings account. So again, not enough to really do anything with. I'm saying keep the security right around 10 grand, because if you need something that's more than that, you can fall back on your personal savings for that. You can make up the difference. In an emergency, you know that you're taken care of. Again, that tow bill, that's the one I'm mostly concerned with, is that tow bill.
right?
You know, Charlie, you had that incident where they wouldn't replace a tire because you didn't have any money in your maintenance account, right?
True story.
So he didn't even get the corporate discount for the National Tire account on that one.
I had to buy some crappy recap just long enough to get me to somewhere else. I mean, I had a check coming, but they were being, hard asses at the time, and it was a weird deal, but that's fine. I mean, I paid cash for a crappy recap to cover a spot till I could get back in the right. You know, and that, I mean, it hurt my brain. It hurt my feelings. I'm like, well, damn. But, it solidified that they're not my friend. They're not my partner. They're my customer.
Yeah. Yeah. When you're leased to a carrier, it's kind of a weird thing. You have the side where they're your customer, and you have the side where they're selling you services.
Right.
So things like Swift's discount that they get on repairs and stuff, because multi-billion-dollar company, again, they have some leverage out there with the dealerships. And I remember I had to replace an air conditioner one time,
right,
and the bill came back with something like $2,500, and Juice went to bat for me, and by the time he was done with those people, I owed $900.
right.
So I think that I got my money's worth out of that 10% of the $900 to save $1,500. And that's another thing that people need to look at, is what services does the carrier have for you as a contractor? I know Landstar's got their program, their maintenance program. I'm sure Schneider's got one too, where they can get discounts for their contractors. So it's a kind of a weird thing when you think about it, Charlie.
Yeah.
Two sides of the coin there.
Yeah, no doubt. So we're going to dip into the next one here. All right. From surviving to wealth building, right? I know a lot of people are in survival mode, but if we can get this going in our brain now and we can start working towards the wealth building, when things are great, it's that much easier. For instance, Swift put out, an executive video here recently, and they don't seem super optimistic on freight this month for sure. Maybe next quarter, but maybe next year, right? I mean, it was a lot of corporate speak, and I get it. They don't want to doom and gloom the whole thing, but they weren't willing to say, oh, it's gonna be better, right? From a company standpoint, they were talking about the use of fuel, things like that. Sorry, I'm actually going to go backwards just a little bit. The comment I threw up that, nobody acknowledged, which is fine, and nor did I expect it. They were talking about, well, if you use our fuel routes, we're not paying the amount that you think we're paying because we have negotiated fuel prices with them. And they're worried about hitting the gallons volume on a monthly basis that they have contracted and agreed to purchase this much fuel to keep these discounts. They need to buy so many gallons at each place every year or every month, what have you. My suggestion was, well, why don't you pass on some of that savings to the contractors and help with those volume levels, but ignored, whatever. So we use our own sources. That's fine. What wealth looks like for trucking entrepreneurs, I think it's going to be different for a lot of us. For me, wealth would be having my property paid off, done. Don't have my house on it yet, but one of the things I want to do was I want this house and this property to be completely debt free. Once we're done with it. So I want to pay cash for everything in the house build, and I want to have the family build the house as much as we can. Things like that, a little bit left over for retirement. I do have the benefit of having a VA disability compensation. So that's something, and later down the road, I'll maybe have Social Security, but I'm not banking on it. You know what I mean? Type of thing. But dipping into these IRAs, the solo 401ks, real estate dividend investing, I'm not super informed on these things, but we have talked about these things before. Income outside the driver's seat, building your next chapter. This is a big thing for us. There are, we talk about it all the time. There are many opportunities out there. Whether or not you're in a position to act on those opportunities, that's going to be, you're going to be working towards that, following all of these steps. And hopefully moving forward, you'll be able to start taking advantage when you find a guy that says, hey man, I'm going to just sell my truck off. It's a great truck. I'm just tired and I'm going to retire. I'll sell it to you for 10 grand free and clear. Could you jump on that deal? I can't right this minute, but I'm working on getting back to that spot. Jeff and I just had an opportunity kind of slip through our fingers. Well, we got beat by a bank. We talked about it last week. It was, a considerable investment on our part, but for an operation that was solid, being sold because of retirement, just done, older dude, 72 plus years old. He just doesn't want to run the business anymore. And yet it comes with a solid contract, great equipment, all these things, right? And the bank's like, oh, that's fantastic. We'll buy it cash. Here you go. And the guy's like, yeah, I can't pass this up, Yeah. But it was something we were ready to move on. And, we kind of had our ducks in a row on that deal. We actually had some financial backing that we could have thrown into there. Those types of things. But if you're not doing all of this stuff before this, you're never going to build wealth. I guess I should throw that graphic up. My bad.
I think too, Charlie, that you have to want wealth.
Right.
Your wealth. And there's nothing wrong with it.
Different.
I know that there's a stigma to it these days, but there's nothing wrong with wanting wealth for yourself and for others. I do think that it needs to be mutually beneficial for people. I mean, I don't think you could be a Scrooge McDuck, and just it's all mine. I think that there's a lot of power to the concept that things are mutually beneficial. Thinking about what would you do with this wealth if you had it? Would you hire employees? Would you build a business that uplifts other people, maybe lifts people out of poverty? Right? I can tell you one of the opportunities that Charlie and I are working on right now has the potential to do just that. To take someone working from home, maybe for whatever reason they don't leave the house,
right,
and build them a business that could make a really good living for them, which of course we would get a cut of because we built the business, right?
Right.
That's a lot different than being the Scrooge McDuck.
Yeah.
I have an issue with Scrooge McDucks.
Yeah.
I'm going to say that right now. Disney can sue me because they are Scrooge McDuck if they want to, but for saying it so many times. But I mean, let's be real. That those are the ones that you want to watch out for. Be someone that is looking for that win-win all the time.
So our question on this one, right there. What's one wealth building step you've taken or want to this year? I think that's a good question. I think it's a valid question. And I'm willing to bet that it's not a question most of us can answer right now. You know, but that's the purpose of this show, right? That's the purpose of this topic,
Right.
you know, is to get you thinking, to get you moving in a direction where you start thinking about these things, right? And you start taking actions and making little changes here and little changes there that will build you to this ultimate outcome, which will probably be ever evolving. Let's be real about that. Okay. Things change on a day-to-day basis. You know, I'm in a weird spot with my mom right now.
Mm-hmm.
You know, she really needs someone at her house all the time. We're trying to do some things through the state of Oregon. We're trying to get people lined up to be able to step in and help out. But right now it's the family just getting clobbered by all this. And it's super stressful. And I can't go out there. I just took 2 weeks off. That was actually part of my head issue over the past 2 weeks was, this stuff developing with my mother. But because I took those 2 weeks off and sat in my dark, evil hole, I can't afford to go out there right now and cover the 2 weeks. Yeah. I can't afford to go out there and cover the 2 weeks that my sister's not able to be there. Right. So I think I'm going to be looking for some sort of opportunity where, because she's kind of set up a little business center there at mom's house so that she can work, because she works remotely. My sister does. And she's got a little 2-monitor system set up on a desk, and I just got to take the laptop, right? And I'll be able to help out a little bit more. But I got to find a trucking opportunity for myself out there on the Northwest, which I despise being in. But for my mom, I'll move the world if I have to. But I have to.
For you,
what's that?
I might have an opportunity for you.
Right. But it can be a tough thing, Oh, Jeff.
How do you feel about Reno instead of actually living in Oregon? Then you could just go home every couple of weeks to your mom's.
Yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, just saying.
I don't want to live there permanently. I can't pack everybody up and move. That's part of my problem. I can't lose what's in Florida, right?
No, you don't have to.
But I still have to support Florida and that. So that therein lies my issue.
Venmo.
Yeah.
Venmo your kids. Everybody's got Venmo now. It's under the age of 40. So
right. We use Zelle. Come on. So shuck and oysters. This is an interesting topic. Shuck and Oyster said, I was told any side hustles or jobs have to be logged on duty. I say, screw that. It's no one's business what happens off the truck. You can build a house and get 2 hours of sleep and no one cares. But as soon as you make money, then they care. I am not going to argue with you. I'm going to iterate the rules, which states that if you are benefiting monetarily from other work when you're off duty, you should log that as on duty. We'll just move on from there. I understand what you're saying.
There's what the regulations state, and just understand. I'm going to delve a little deeper, Charlie, because I feel like I need to.
Yep, you go for it.
Understand that if your logs are audited and the FMCSA can show that you made money outside of trucking via your tax returns, they could hit you with falsified logs. Now, in my 20 years of trucking, have I seen that actually happen? Not once. But the odds of it happening are not zero.
Right.
So I'm going to say go forward with caution. And absolutely don't do what we've seen people do in the past, Charlie. Don't go drive Uber and tell everybody about it on freaking Facebook.
Okay.
and then go drive your truck.
Right?
I'm just saying, don't do that.
Just shut up.
Yeah.
God. Sometimes you just got to shut up.
Yeah. But
many
our side of it, we actually, because of what we do, we have our little side hustle here. What we do, we actually ask Swift's safety guy about it. And as long as we don't actually draw any money out of the Contractors Corner Consulting Group business, we do not have to log the time on the show.
Right.
But if we draw even $1 from that business, guess what we have to do? And Charlie and I have discussed this. At what point do we start drawing money out? Well, not right now, because
not until it makes sense to cover that time.
Yep. It's got to pay enough to be worth the time. So that's the way we look at it.
Lisa said, so if I'm driving a car, do I have to log it? Are you driving that car for profit, or are you driving that car for your regular everyday, running errands?
So I would say if it's a hobby, no. Unless you win the race, which I don't know. Do you win races, Lisa? Oh, did I say that out loud?
My bad. I didn't see the race car part. My bad.
So yeah, we I don't think we want to get into regulatory discussions on the show because it's just so sticky. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And someone's going to be like, oh, Jeff and Charlie said this. It must be true. And then you're going to want to sue me or him for something. And we're going to be like, here.
Even though, Charlie, we are not licensed professionals in any of this stuff. And you should sue licensed legal and financial advisors.
We're old dudes
before
that live life, and we're sharing our opinions.
That's right.
DJ Bolin, what's up, man? Thank you. Like you said, good evening, everyone. Hit that thumbs up button, y'all. I like it. I appreciate that. So what's been your biggest money challenge in trucking, and how did you overcome it? That's our first big question for the episode. We would prefer if you could answer that in the comment after the live, just to see if we can get some other people talking about these things, right? Oops, I hit the wrong button. Here, I'll hit enter. Then that'll work. There we go. And our second question for the week, what's something you're doing now to build financial freedom in the future? Let me copy that and put it up on the screen. And I will try and remember to put it in the show or in the comment section after the show. But yeah, so that's where we're at with that. Inside Road Warrior Entrepreneurs, we go deep on this stuff. Real world coaching on budgeting, saving, and building trucking businesses that last. Join us at rwedrive.com. And we're going to do this thing real fast. We'll be right back, y'all. You know what I'm doing. You're either running your business like an owner or like an employee. And if you're stuck in that employee mindset, you're leaving money on the table. Company drivers wait for direction. Business owners create opportunities. Company drivers chase miles and just drive. Business owners chase profits and know their numbers. Want to run a real business? Start tracking your numbers. Know your cost per mile and start saying no to bad loads. Drop I run a business in the comments if you're done thinking like an employee. If you want to take this mindset shift further, join the Road Warrior Entrepreneurs community at www.rwedrive.com, where we have profit boosting strategies, coaching calls, and real road warriors winning together. Anyhow, we're at that point where if you guys got something specific you want to talk about, or you want to dig deeper into what we were talking about so far, by all means, throw that out there in the comment section. That was funny. I was like, what the hell just happened?
My camera decided to look at the ceiling.
Right. Sean, that's, company switches, and it's been a rough time eating almost nothing and getting behind on bills. Absolutely. Those switches are a mother. I'm going to sit down. I'm going to drop my desk here. My back's doing a little wonky stuff, but dun 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 dun.
We've already made the mouse mad today. Let's not keep going.
Right. Oh, Now I can sit back a little bit. So I'm not real good on chat today because my eyeballs are not when I don't sleep enough, my vision screws with me, even with my glasses. It's crazy, right? So yeah, today was definitely a day that I needed to sleep that I did not sleep enough. But I'm gonna try and I know I can't catch up, but I think I'm at a bit of a deficit, and tomorrow's gonna be maybe sleep in a little bit. Hopefully I can go to bed early tonight. That would be fantastic. I got a new pillow that is, oh my God, so good that I can't even think of the name of it right now. Yep, Craig, you're right. The comments disappear after the live. You'll need to repost the questions. The live chat does come back after a couple hours or a day or something like that. But you're right. And I failed to put those questions on the screen. So I'm going to do that real fast here because so someone can see that. If you could answer those questions in the comments after the live stream, that would be very helpful. What's been your biggest money challenge in trucking and how did you overcome it? And what's something you're doing now to build financial freedom for the future? These are things hopefully you're thinking about, and and if you weren't already, maybe you are now, and then we feel like we've done something positive. Ida, social media has ruined so many things. Everyone should keep their personal lives separate from social media. Look.
You're not going to get an argument from me there.
Yeah, I got some people on social media that are just going completely nuts right now with this weird personal fight that's going on between two people, and it's just gotten ugly. I'm just like, man, what is wrong with you people? Back off. If you're that pissed off, you know what? Mute, ignore, unfriend. I don't know. Why keep it going for 3 days? Just, dude, solid 3 days, all day, all night, not sleeping people. I'm just, what the hell ever. Lisa, to add on to that, to Ida's comment, don't add your supervisor and higher ups from company on your social media, especially if you or they cannot keep those things separate. Most of the people that I don't say anything on social media that I believe is going to get me into trouble.
I used to.
Huh?
I used to.
Yeah. It's I don't know, man. Most of the people that I deal with, I'm comfortable in that I know we can have that separation. Ida is a great example of that. Ida and I had a professional relationship first, and we have a friendship on the side. There are times when I have to be Charlie the contractor and she's Ida the boss. And I'm like, I don't like what's going on. I ain't mad at her. Maybe I'm mad at a situation or some new process or something like that. And vice versa. She can, be like, bro, dude, Charlie the contractor, what the hell are you doing? I need you to do better. I can be like, yes, ma'am, you're right. Whatever. And try to do better. And then we ain't mad at each other afterwards in the personal side. I love being around people that can make that separation. Some people can't. So if you're not one of those people that can, or your supervisors are not people that can, things like that, you probably should not do that. Absolutely, probably a great idea.
All right.
Sean said, I'm the worst at saying stuff that could get me in trouble. Yeah, whatever. I get it.
I have literally been on the phone with Sean. He'll say something and then he'll stop and go, I shouldn't have said that, huh?
Right?
I'm like, I don't know. Sure.
Interwebs are forever, it seems. So be careful.
Don't do it on the web, bro.
But yeah, I don't know. Like I said, we did a similar show to this recently. But I feel like, and I was telling Jeff, I'm like, we actually just did this not too long ago, but he's like, well, what do you think? Should we not redo it, or, is that like a problem? And I'm like, I don't think it's a problem, because I think this is one of those things that we should be kind of banging that drum on a regular basis or semi-regular basis, you know. Yeah. So, Trucker Tim, I see what you're saying. Quite frankly, unless you literally threaten coworkers on Facebook, it is your personal page, and employers should not judge you for what you say on it. You're right, but people are human, and we're all judging everything, everybody, all the time.
So, you know, I have a daughter that is applying for scholarships right now because she's going to school. She's going to college in the fall. And we've never allowed our kids to have social media. When they turn 18, they can do whatever they want. But, you know, that's been one of the things that we put our foot down about. No social media until you're 18.
Right.
Well, she's applying for these scholarships, and one of them required that she follow the people on Facebook.
Isn't that crazy?
And so she's not 18 yet, but it's like, well, you know, I guess close enough to 18, and she's got to have the Facebook apparently to like these people to apply for the scholarship. So, and then of course, once you graduate from college too, employers will look at your Facebook to see what kind of person you are.
People like Jeff will Facebook stalk you.
I don't Facebook stalk. I just like to know if someone's being combative, especially.
Right.
I want to see if there's any common ground we can find at all.
But he will look at your pictures and stuff.
Oh yeah, I'll look for your pictures. That way, if I see you at the terminal, I'll say, "There's that guy."
And I'm like, people walk up to me like, and we've been friends on Facebook or something like that for years. I have no idea what they look like until they're like, "Bro, I am so and so." Wow, that almost came out of my face. Man, I don't even know how to move past that. Like my brain was like, but yeah, I'm so and so, and I'm like, oh, you're cool. I like you, and I had no idea what you look like.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's funny because I have people that walk up to me and they're like, "Hey, man," you know, and they start a conversation that we had going on like in PM or something like that.
Yeah.
And it could have been 2 weeks ago. And I'm like, this sounds familiar. I feel like I should know what we're talking about. And then they're like, "Oh, I'm so and so." I'm like, "I'm an idiot. You're right. Okay, go on." Oh, Lord, Lisa.
Oh,
I'm destroyed.
did you use the plot?
Woo. Anyhow, what do you got, Jeff? I just stuck. I'm stuck.
I don't know, man. My brain's not working so well today.
Right? Dude, the last few weeks have been just, oh man. You know, we can talk about the next couple of weeks of shows, Jeff.
Okay, good.
I don't mind throwing some of that out. Like next week, we're actually talking about trucking. The show title is actually Trucking Safety. Trucking safety isn't luck, it's a system, and you guys know what we're like about systems. How smart safety practices protect your life and your business, hidden risks that most truckers ignore, and systems that make safety profitable, not painful. I'm not going to get deep into the next two, but the week after that, we're going to have our buddy Mike the mechanic, aka Narc, on we're going to have a maintenance show and talk about some best practices and why you should be doing maintenance versus reacting to breakdowns. You know, things of that nature. And the week after that, our plan is to talk about how do you find out and how do you get the best resale on your truck? You know, what's it worth? What can you do to make it worth more? You know, for those of you who do own your truck. You know, what sort of things are going to help you with that move? So that's what we're doing for the rest of May. Hopefully, we're going to be able to get some information out about our contest that's coming up. I know we've been talking about it for quite some time, but, you know, just want to keep that in there. If you've got dash cam videos of four-wheelers doing stupid or dangerous things in front of big trucks, and you own that video, put those in a folder somewhere and save them till we tell you it's time to upload them, and we'll give you a spot and all that kind of thing. And my dogs are going nuts outside right now. I don't know why. Good Lord, I hate when they look, man. Oh man, no, that's not a squirrel bark. I actually know there's squirrel bark because we got this telephone pole out on the far side of the house over here between us and our neighbors, and the squirrels like to hang out 3/4 of the way up the pole or on the top of the pole, and both dogs will sit at the bottom of the dang pole barking, and they're telling me, hey, there's a squirrel up there, hey, there's a squirrel up there, hey, there's a squirrel up there, hey, squirrel, get down, hey, there's a squirrel up there. And if I go out there, they just look at me and they'll bark up at the pole, and they'll look at me and they'll bark up at the pole, and I'm like, I'm not messing with it, leave it alone. Just I see it, go away, leave it alone. Good Lord. Oh man. Oh my gosh, Lisa.
Lisa's on a roll right now.
Yeah, I dig it. I just feel like I shouldn't say those out loud.
No. Solely for the enjoyment of people in the chat.
Right. And that's cool. Yeah, but so that's our next few shows. Yeah, if there's anything that you guys think that we need to touch on following this type of a thing, we have some topics that we're building into our future shows and things like that. I don't know. We talked about last week, Jeff. What do we call that? The salty
Salt shaker.
Salt shaker. If you want to hop on here and we'll give you a couple minutes
Be as salty as you dare.
Huh?
Be as salty as you dare.
Right? If there's something you want to gripe about, and maybe it'll start a discussion, or maybe it won't, or maybe we'll just be like, you're weird, but that's cool too. One of you guys
you're looking for people that have anything about the industry, People love to complain. You can complain on our show.
Right.
We'll invite you right on.
We kind of did a little bit of that, Mike. And kind of most of the shows we've been doing lately have actually touched on that because of the way the market's been so far. That's really why we're been pushing, streamlining and really belt tightening, right, to get to a point where you can get to a point where you're not going to be destroyed. We need to be able to survive the tough times, and some think that we've actually not at the bottom. It's going to get harder. Some people think that it's going to get better sooner rather than later. So I don't think anybody knows, and that's the problem.
Well,
when it happens, the guy that said it's the genius, and everybody else is idiots.
Mike's comment though, it's going to get hard here soon. Mike, it's been hard since COVID.
Right.
This is nowhere near the end. The freight rates and the volumes that Charlie and I are used to over the last 20 years.
Right.
It's been bad since right after COVID. So you guys that got in right after COVID, I understand that this is not the normal freight business. You got in it. I'm just going to say it, Charlie, a really bad time. You got in as it was going down and is still not recovering for whatever reason. It's not something we can control. All we can control is how we react to the market. I can tell you what we do need, though, Mike, is we need more people to go bankrupt.
Sounds hard.
I know it sounds harsh, but half of the problem is we just have too many trucks on the road. This BS about there being a driver shortage, I don't even know who started that, Charlie.
Right.
Or why they started that. There has not been a driver shortage the entire time I've been driving, since 2006. There's not been a driver shortage for people. That's not a thing.
We've had way too much capacity.
Yeah. If there was a driver shortage, then why are people sitting for 3-4 days between loads?
Right.
There's no driver shortage. So you're right, Mike. It might get much worse, but so here's the thing that I think people need to be careful of. Washington, D.C. is going to do what Washington, D.C. does. There's not a doggone thing you can do about that.
Right.
And I know that's where that's going. Trump, Biden, whoever, I don't care. They're going to do what they do. It's got nothing to do with you and I. If the people that are out there calling doomsday actually are right, then you got a lot more to worry about than a truck payment and a mortgage payment, guys. We're talking total collapse. And I don't know about you, Charlie, but I just don't see it going that far. All these doomsdayers that are out there right now, just they drive me nuts, bro. So I'm going to continue doing what I'm doing, growing my businesses,
right?
Doing what I can to get ahead in this journey we call life. And when the game is over, it's over, and there's nothing you can do about it. I don't think that it's worth worrying about. I think you pivot when you need to pivot. And if you're one of those guys that's looking at getting out of the industry, good luck to you in your future endeavors,
Right.
We need more people to exit. So hopefully you're not one of the guys actually going bankrupt. I don't wish that on anybody. But the fact is that we have an abundance of capacity and not enough freight to move for that number of trucks that are on the road.
So DJ, driver shortage is a scam to keep driver pay low. Wouldn't you think? No. But wouldn't you think that if there was a driver shortage, it would actually drive pay up because they're trying to incentivize getting that, right? But that hasn't happened either. I mean, I'm not saying you're wrong. Don't get me wrong, because I'm not going to argue that. What I'm saying is I don't think it's a scam to keep driver pay low. I think that I just think it's weird, saber rattling, doom and gloom. Yeah, I don't know how to iterate it any better.
Yeah.
And Mike says, he's watching the ports, not, Washington. Port of LA is down 30%, according to James. Chris wants to know, Jeff, how's the new Star Wars on Disney Plus?
I just finished the new season of Andor, and it was really good. I'm not too happy with the way it ended, but overall the show was really good.
The new Skippy book is out. Jeff just started it today. I started it 2 days ago. I'm on like chapter 17, 18, something like that. So we're not allowed to talk about it with each other yet, really. But yeah, it's fantastic. Those who know, if you know, you know. DJ said, I remember in the 90s, they were bringing foreign drivers over temporary work visa. They would do a year and go back to their country, and then they would hire somebody else. Yeah, right. So you know what? I can see your argument there, because that was a thing. I don't know, man. The climate's changed. Yeah.
Now, when you look at the mega carriers, that's a different conversation, though, Charlie.
Right.
And I don't know that if we've really talked about this on the show before, but a mega carrier, especially the ones that do the training, Swift, CR England, those guys, when they say driver shortage, they're looking at their own turnover. Keeping butts in seats is what they're looking at. So it's a different thing. When a mega carrier like Swift says they have a driver shortage, that means that they're not keeping their 14,200 trucks seated because of the turnover rate. which is different than an overall driver shortage.
Right.
I think sometimes people in the media, they're trying to make it sound like it's an industry-wide thing instead of just a mega carrier thing. That could be part of it.
Right. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, we could argue and argue and argue, and I get it. I mean, it's the hot topic and things like that. Don't get me wrong. But like Jeff said, I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing, right? And I'm going to do the best that I can in whatever system or party or whatever is going on. You know, I don't want to get bogged down in the emotional side of things. I want to work, you know, the business side of it and, you know, separate the emotions from the business decisions because, you know, I get it. Sometimes you make an emotional business decision. It has to happen. Sometimes it just does. We're people. But I think that, you know, you typically need to really separate the emotions, step back, have someone like I do. You know, I've got Jeff, and I say, hey, man, this is BS, bro. I'm out. And he's like, calm down, step back, and let's talk about the numbers. Do the numbers make sense? Then there's your answer, right? Instead of, I'm just pissed off and I want to break stuff.
So I'm going to get political a little bit because it's coming up. Drug runner, you're wrong. Just so you know, Sean. The president did sign an executive order last week to enforce the language requirement for CDL drivers. So I did a little bit of research on this, and apparently the Biden administration tried to get that out of the regulation completely. They failed to do so. And now Trump has signed an executive order and told the states, no, you will enforce this, or there will be consequences. I don't know what, Charlie, I don't even know what consequences he's talking about. Who knows with that guy? Federal funding for something, I'm sure.
Jeff is Charlie's emotional support counselor. Sometimes.
And the other way around.
Right.
But,
yeah.
You know, the FCSA has always had that rule. I don't know, though, Charlie, whether there are actually enough non-English speakers, like legitimately, to make a dent in our overall thing. Because you remember, you know, I always get the names mixed up, but the guys from Mexico that drive here, that bring stuff across the border.
The B1 drivers?
B1 drivers. I don't know that that's a requirement for them as a B1 driver.
James might know.
Because they don't have an American CDL, do they? They have a Mexican CDL. So I don't even know how that. I want to use the word translate. That's a bad word for this discussion.
Right.
So it's an interesting one for sure. I think we run the risk, though, Charlie, of exacerbating certain people and giving them too big of a voice, in my opinion.
Right.
On this one. Because you do have to be careful on a topic like this. I mean, there is an actual issue. You know, Charlie, you've experienced it firsthand. You know, guy gets in a wreck and can't tell you what's in his dang trailer. Right. You don't know if it's hazmat or not because he doesn't speak enough English to tell you. That's an issue. So I think as long as we look at it from that perspective, we don't go down the other rabbit hole. I think it's a good discussion.
James says that the B1 drivers do have to know English proficiently enough to communicate. But how is it enforced? You know what I mean? I
wonder if the least ones you have to worry about are those B1 drivers.
I think
you know what I mean?
Look, most of the B1 drivers that I didn't even know they were B1 drivers till, conversations, right? Um, I didn't even realize that they weren't US drivers.
Mhm.
Maybe they have an accent, but they speak fine. The ones that I see that seem to have language issues are US drivers, supposedly,
Mhm.
allegedly. Um, the Somali dude in that wreck, like Jeff was talking about, couldn't tell us what the hell was in his trailer. It's on fire. There's dead people laying around, and we're trying to save people.
Yeah.
And we have no idea if we're going to die just based on the smoke from the fire, right? Uh, these are considerations for people that are coming to help.
Right.
If your truck and trailer is stolen and it's got a load of, I don't know, explosives in it, what kind of explosives? I mean, we all know that there's many different levels of explosives. Some are far more important to be able to explain than others.
Yeah.
Some are going to level a city. Others are going to burn the truck up.
What do you mean, like that hazmat placard that I had you look up for me?
Right. There's so many things. I don't know.
Yeah, that was an interesting one. I was at a truck stop and saw this interesting load of hazmat. It had the radioactive thing on it, and it was just a really weird trailer. And Charlie and I were talking about it, and so we looked it up. It was fissile material.
I had to look up that. I had to look the definition of that up.
And I'm like, well, that's different because I'm used to seeing, the waste, right? I'm not used to seeing the other side.
Yeah, the actives could be turned into a poop.
Yeah. Fissile material, by the way, guys, is material that can maintain a nuclear reaction.
Right.
Just so you know.
Yeah. I ain't parking there. I'm out. I'm glad I don't park at truck stop. Mike was saying,
I hope the guy was making. I bet that guy had a pretty good rate.
Right. Mike's saying under USMCA, U.S. companies with Mexican authority can hire Mexican drivers to drive anywhere in the United States. Swift through Transmex has hired over 5,000 drivers since 2018. There's a lot of these discussions. You guys know that we try not to get political, and when we do, it's kind of tiptoeing in, right? And it's not that we're afraid. I mean, you could call us individually. We'll have a political conversation with you. Don't be one of those jackasses that's like, oh, you don't agree with me. Click. You're stupid. Let's have an adult conversation.
Yeah, we have a super fan that likes to try and get people not to join our groups out there. That's like that. He's great.
Yeah. Good times. But yeah, what do you guys got? What else you guys got? Come on.
Just know that we don't even disagree between the two of us.
Right.
It's just not possible, bro.
Yeah, it's crazy. Excuse me. I feel like I missed some stuff. I wasn't starring anything. So if you put something up earlier and we didn't get to it and you want us to get to it, please put that back up for us. Swift.
So yeah, Swift gives a test to the B1 guys on day one. That's what Swift does, but what about everybody else? Is that standard practice on them?
I think Sean is asking if they do that.
Well, what's his name?
James?
James said they did.
Oh, okay. I see. See, look, I can't keep up with chat. It takes so much focus right now to read chat, which is baffling. Yeah, not mentioning. There is a Swift Canada. They have a terminal up there somewhere. It's considered a separate entity. At least one that I think I know of. At least they did at one point. DJ said, I'm surprised that Swift doesn't have a terminal in Canada. I believe that there is, and it's a separate entity. I can't remember. Good Lord. Reading contracts. Craig, that's a great topic. It's a tough topic to do on here, even though.
Yeah.
Because of so many different contracts, right? Yeah, you know, I don't know.
Chat's kind of blowing up.
Yeah, right. Sorry. Yeah, we're trying to read that.
Oh yeah, Chris Helms. I thought we mentioned that on the show last week or the week before. He actually got a he made more in fuel surcharge than he paid for fuel here a couple of weeks ago. So we love seeing that. I wish that we saw it more, but the fact is that it usually it's pretty close, right? Like within a couple pennies is what I usually see. And then fuel actually needs to go up a little bit more for it to get to that point for me.
Right.
Fuel went down this week, by the way, Charlie. I don't know if you saw that.
Yep. I'm doing a quick search here. Bear with me.
Okay. He sees lots of Swift trailers up there. Sees them at Dodge Point. I'm going to express my ignorance here. I don't know where that's at, but
yeah, I don't know if we still have a permanent presence there or not, honestly. I know we did at one point.
They used to have that one run that went from Seattle to Anchorage. Remember that one?
Yeah. That was nuts.
There was Costco or something like that.
Yeah, I don't know about the Canada. I know at one point because I remember seeing a business banner that was Swift Transportation Canada.
Huh.
And they had Canadian plates.
Huh. You sure that could just be cross-border operations?
Yeah, but they did not have the I remember seeing a couple trucks that had Canadian plates and no US plate, strictly Canadian plates.
Huh.
And a different DOT number. Well, you know what I mean.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's a DOT number up there or not. Yeah, that I don't know. I used to love going up there though. I actually missed part of that. That was fun. People are so much nicer. I don't know, man. Even though I was a jackwagon Canadian Thanksgiving at the Flying J up in one of those cities, and I'm like, I love you, Canadians. You're awesome. Canada is awesome. They're like, bro.
It's time to be quiet.
Right? I don't know what that is. Oh, DJ was talking about the Dodge plant in Brampton.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, Chris said running in California is what put him over the top on that stuff, on the surcharge. Yeah, it went down this week. Only 0.017 on the national average.
Yeah, but that's like the third week in a row it's gone down, right? If I remember right.
Yeah. We're down 39.397 cents from a year ago.
Interesting.
Right. And it's every region went down all the way across the board.
So not as extreme as the last changing of the guard, but still it's going down.
Yeah, Craig had a good gig back in the day where he was driving to Alaska. He says he misses driving to Alaska. Oh, Mike said he did that one. Did that one Costco Sumner. to Anchorage and Fairbanks. Oh, I didn't know about it when it was happening. I would have loved to have tried that, just because that is the one state I have never been in.
Yeah, it's the only state I haven't been in as well. We can do one of those summer cruises, Charlie.
Right.
You, me, Donna, and Rosie. Because that's like the only cruise that we're interested in is the Alaska cruise.
Right.
And they do that in the off season, so it doesn't even cost as much as the ones in the Bahamas.
Yeah. I want to drive a commercial truck in Alaska and Hawaii somehow. I've been to Hawaii on personal, but not business. Never been to Alaska. But I got all of 48 multiple times, the lower 48, and I have all of the southern territories of Canada. Been all in. Haven't gone to any of the northern territories. I think it'd be cool to add that to my little tiki talk list. I can't talk.
It says the Canada crew uses the new Boston yard.
Huh.
That would make sense. It's right there.
Even in July, Alaska was cold. I'm not saying I want to do it every day. Hawaii's longest trailer is 45 feet. That's interesting. I don't know. I haven't been to Hawaii since I was a kid, so I didn't even pay attention to anything, to be honest, except sunburns and beach. It was awesome. I had a good time.
Mm-hmm.
Now I go places and I'm like, holy, how would you get a commercial vehicle in here? It's weird. The way we look at things after we actually have a CDL for a while. How do you handle the crossing the Canadian border? The metric system would confuse me. Yeah, it wasn't a thing. Oh my gosh.
So Sean's butter. Okay.
Yeah, I think we've hit the bottom of our possibilities here. Look, let's go ahead and wrap this thing, Jeff. We didn't go long on our first segment, and thanks for you guys sticking through that. Like I said, next week we're going to be dipping into safety, and I know it's not everybody's favorite topic, but what are you going to do if you are shut down? Because of some sort of safety problem, and you could have prevented it. So we're going to do our best to kind of dip into that.
Yeah, for those of you guys in the school platform, I'm starting the new sequence on Saturday, 4 p.m. Mountain Time. So that'll be about a 90-minute Zoom call with you guys. And we're going to be starting a 6-part Zoom sequence. My idea is to do it over 6 weeks. So every Saturday at 4 p.m. Mountain Time, be on the Zooms. And we're going to be going over here on a mission, and that's going to lead directly into the next course, which will lead into the next course. I got a whole year planned out for you guys. It won't necessarily be every single Saturday because, as you know, I drive truck as well.
What?
But we'll do our best to be there on Saturdays. Once you're in the school community, which, by the way, if you're not a member yet, you can sign up at www.rwedrive.com and get signed up for school. It's only $47 a month for all the training and stuff we do there and the community. So once you're in there, though, there is one new thing for you guys. Check the calendar inside of school.
Nice.
And that'll have the Zoom links for each week that I'm going to be available to do it. Right now, I've got myself scheduled for this Saturday and next Saturday. And then we'll see how things roll with everybody.
Right.
We're really trying hard to come up with a regular schedule, and it Charlie, as you know, it's hard with us being out on the road,
Right.
all of you guys being out on the road, but we'll figure it out. We'll figure
Life,
it out. Getting better each time.
Business and personal. Good Lord.
Yeah.
All right, Jeff, drop it.
keep that rubber side down, and remember, with no action, there is no traction.
And once again, look after each other, everybody. Nobody's out here looking after us. Thank you for spending your time with us. I love you guys. I do, most of you. Just saying. Wife said, you and that dang cigar. Look, don't be hating on me, lady. I'll fight you. Not really. We'll see you guys next week, 6 p.m. Tuesday Eastern Time, right here. Trucking Talks Live, Contractors Corner, Road Warrior Entrepreneurs. We love you guys. We'll see you then. Be safe.